Paul and Emma.
So for my presentation today, it should be a 15-minute video, and then after that, I might do a live demo of the web application that was the result of this video, and then we can also take questions. So I don't think it'll take longer than 20 minutes. So as a last presentation, we can get done early. So I'll start the video. Let me know if there's any issues in the chat with sound or anything. I think I have everything ready to go. Hey everybody! Today I'm going to talk about how to make a web map in Leaflet. Specifically, we're going to challenge ourselves to do it at 3 levels of difficulty, or roughly 1 minute, 1 hour, and 10 hours. For those who don't know me, my name is Hayden Elza. I'm a JS developer at the Wisconsin State Cartographer's Office, so I spend a lot of time developing web applications from the ground up. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through what that process might look like. First off, if you're not familiar with Leaflet, it is an open source JavaScript library for making interactive maps for the web. It is lightweight, mobile-friendly, and very flexible. As with any project, it's always good to start with a to-do list or backlog. For us, it's going to look something like this, which looks pretty involved, but we can break it down into 3 levels of difficulty to make it more manageable. Now we can see that for our 1-minute map, all we need to do is throw some points on a map from a GeoJSON, add a base map, and if possible, color the points based on category and add a pop-up to show a photo. With the goal of making a web map in 1 minute, you really can't get a whole lot done. And if you were to do it completely from scratch, honestly, you'd probably just put some points on a map and that's about it. And you have a base map. But for this tutorial, we're going to assume that you have little snippets of code that you can grab and use. For instance, to set your Mac extend, give you a simple base map, throw some points up, give some styling. So in our to-do list, we'll have a little bit extra than what you would assume could be thrown in a 1-minute map. And when we say 1 minute, let's just say, okay, still under 5 minutes, maybe closer to 2-3 minutes. We'll see what we can do. In our to-do list, we want to create a blank map with a base map. That's very easy to do. That should be really quick. We'll get that done in like the first 30 seconds. We want to add some points. That might take another 30 seconds. We already have the data prepared. We've got our status. We have some that are unincorporated that are found. If we go to the end of our file, we have some that are not found. This is in the form of GeoJSON. We can add this pretty easily. The next part is we want to color based on the category. Like I said, we've got the status. We can color it based on found and not found. We'll make found blue, not found red. And the last thing we want to do is that we want to add photos. And we have a photo GeoJSON with coordinates and also the name of the file. And we can use the name of the file to render that photo in a pop-up. So with all of this information, let's see how fast we can do this. I will start a clock and then jump right into it. Okay, clock started, so I'm going to go as fast as I can and waste no time. The first thing we're going to do is put this in, save it. Map's still going to be blank because nothing is rendered yet. We're going to grab the Leaflet JavaScript. We're going to throw this libraries in the head of the document and save that. Nothing's rendered yet because we need to actually use those JavaScript libraries to render something. We're going to put a script bottom of the body, save that. We should have a blank map now. Looks good. Next thing we need to do is add the unincorporated places. We will load the data in the head after Leaflet. Data is added, but it's not going to be added to the map until we use the method to add it to the map. We'll throw this after base map. We save that, we'll see all the points as markers. But instead of markers, we can change up how that looks by swapping out this block. This has a legend, blue for found, red for not found, and we make it a circle marker. When we click on them, nothing happens. We can add a pop-up feature, bound to those markers by adding this piece here. Now, if we click, we get the name of the unincorporated place and its status. The next thing we can do is we can add photos. We have to add this to the top and the head as well. Now that's loaded. We're going to grab a little bit of CSS to make sure that those pop-ups are styled in a way that looks nice and fits the photos nicely. And the last bit is we need to grab the bit that adds photos in the script. We're going to add that above the uninks. And the reason we add it above the uninks is so that the photos are rendered before the uninks and therefore below them. If we save that, we are done. So now when we zoom in, say we're looking at Big Flats, if we click on a photo, we can see you've got Big Flats Cemetery. There's another photo here, Big Flats unincorporated. So yeah, that's it. And if we look at our time, that was 2:04. So just about 2 minutes, we created a web map with some pretty basic but still usable functionality. I think users can really find out right away that blue means unink found, even though we don't have a legend. Ideally, we'd have a legend. We can add that later. But between the symbology, the pop-ups, I think we've got a very usable map in 2 minutes. You can find the tutorial I was copying from at the SCO's GitHub under the repository called Tutorials. Click on the folder called 1 Minute Web Map using Leaflet. Before we move on to the 1-hour map, I think I should give a little bit of context for what we're mapping. These data are mostly collected by Howard Berrigan, the state cartographer. It's part of an endeavor to find which previously mapped unincorporated places are still extant. Along the way, he took photographs of road signs, cemetery entrances, and anywhere else bearing the name of the unincorporated place to prove it was there. He also took pictures of churches, schoolhouses, and anything else of interest in these vanishing places. He made a simple web map to display the photos and data he collected, but it was never officially announced. If you want to check it out, head over to maps.sco.wisc.edu/uninks. Recently, the project hit a big milestone. Every single previously mapped unincorporated place has been visited by someone to either verify that it's still there or record that no evidence was found. This sparked some discussion about the direction of the project that led us to expand its scope. We were inspired by another project that goes by the name Lost Americana, which includes a website, book, and documentary. The goal of that project is to record the fading bits of American history in rural America using photography and film. Farms, factories, and towns were all included. Which got us thinking, Howard was already recording more than just place names. What if we were to expand the scope to anything in rural Wisconsin, especially those things that can be related back to these unincorporated places? This could include churches, cemeteries, schools, barns, farms, factories, rail stations, stores, anything abandoned. That's how we got Vanishing Wisconsin, capturing rural Wisconsin before it disappears. For our 1-hour map, we can start by moving our data into a database. Not only does this allow us to query the data, but it also allows us to render the data as vector tiles. This results in faster map loading, as only data within our viewport are loaded. Next, we can tackle the header. The header provides consistent branding across your site, but it also provides a place to include navigation, such as About, Help, or Contact. So I just finished up the header and branding. So if you look at a header at the top, you can hit About to get a little bit more information. Yeah, so that part's done. We can add analytics using Google Analytics. We already have a Google Analytics account set up. It's not too hard to just go in there, grab this tag code block, paste it in, and you're already ready to go. The search can be difficult to implement, but as I mentioned before at the beginning of this video, Leaflet is very flexible, and what I meant by that is there's many add-ons to Leaflet called controls. They are free and available online and pretty easy to add to any map. At the state cartographer's office, we've made our own search control, so I'll just use that. Our search is now added, just this little button in Leaflet, and do lat long, street address, county, all that good stuff. And it's all built in nicely. So with our search done, we can head over to do some other stuff. So technically, we didn't finish this whole like data as vector tile, because if we zoom in and we try to click on stuff, we lost that functionality that we had before. But instead of having pop-ups, I think the better option is to put in a sidebar. So maybe that's the next thing we'll tackle. Putting in a sidebar, and when we click, we'll get the name of the place and all the photos that are there. And if you click on a photo, it'll show the photo on the side. We have the beginnings of our sidebar. It pops up whenever we load the page, and we can close it. If we click on the map, it's going to pop up again. Right now, it's filled with nothing, but we have some placeholders where we can put our feature name, our status, and our photos. So we can just inject that with JavaScript and have it display in the sidebar here. For our current progress with the sidebar is that if you click, you get a list of pictures. If you click on it, it opens picture in a new tab. But thing that we're still missing is if we pop in and we click on the actual photo location, we get nothing. So ideally, if we click on the photo, we'd get like a little popover or pop up of the photo. I think that would be good. And an added thing is that if you click on one of these photos, maybe instead of opening up in a new window, instead it'd be nice if it just opened up a pop-up over that point. So not only would you know where it is, but you'd be able to see it right away. You wouldn't have to open a new tab. It'd be a lot better. So we'll see if we can implement those things. Wrapping up the sidebar, see that if you zoom in, you can click on a point, feature, and you'll get the pictures listed. Click on a picture, it'll zoom to that picture. Alternatively, if you're just going around, you can click on the picture itself rather than having to click on over here. So close it, close this. I think that works pretty well. As a wrap up for this section, we were able to get our data into a database. We used Cardo. We made a database for, or rather a table for features and a table for photos. And we're able to join them on the feature ID. In addition, all along the way, we did everything mobile friendly. When we added our Leaflet search control, when we added our sidebar, when we added our header, everything along the way should be mobile friendly. In addition, we add our header, analytics. So as far as our Google Analytics is what we use. Search, that was Leaflet search control. In our sidebar, we add that custom. So that wraps up our 1 hour map and our medium level complexity. Our 10-hour map is getting to some more advanced topics. First, we can fine-tune the styling, including adding dynamic styling, which uses a function to generate the Cardo CSS for us, providing smooth transitions. We can also fine-tune what our sidebar looks like by adding some buttons to click on instead of links. Besides fine-tuning the styling, at this point we can start to get into the back end of the web map, starting to think about things like how do we want to handle photo submission or data ingest, photo processing workflow, and moderation workflow. For data ingest, we can create a data submission page where users can upload a photo and tell us what unincorporated place it is related to. This is what I came up with. User can enter their name, email address, then they can choose the unink that they're going to add a photo for. In this case, we'll try Ada, choose a photo. We get a preview of that photo, we get the name here. We also get both points on the map. The purple goes over the unink, Ada, and the green goes over the photo. And the map automatically zooms into these, which is pretty nice. We can add a note about our submission. If we don't, all good to go, and we can submit. On submission, the photo gets uploaded to a submission folder in an S3 bucket on Amazon Web Services, or AWS. And that link, plus the rest of the submitted information, gets pushed to a database on Cardo. We can set up an SNS notification on AWS to let us know when there's a new submission. For our moderation, we can have a similar view to the submission, but with the option to edit the submission, including the photo location, to make sure everything looks good before adding it to the live map. This moderation view is populated with data from the submission database, and the verified data are submitted directly to the live database, while the photo is moved from the submission folder in the S3 bucket to the main folder. Moving the folder to the main folder will trigger a Lambda function, which will strip the image of any unneeded EXIF metadata to help maintain privacy. At the same time, we can also do any other image optimization that's needed at that time. And that's it for our 10-hour map. The reality is 90% of the map can be created in 10% of the time. And it's that last 10% that takes 90% of the time. That last bit is the fine-tuning of styling and creating back-end tools to add and update your data. Those bits are important. The last thing you want to happen after spending hours creating a map is for the data to become outdated and for users to stop using your application. So what are our takeaways from this video? First off, I would say that making a web map can convey a whole lot of information, and it's very approachable, even for a novice developer. Second, a lot of the time spent on making a web map is actually spent on polishing it, working through the iterative process to determine what you want it to look like. If you had the information from the end of the process at the beginning, it would take no time at all to implement. Lastly, developing a backend for a web map is essential for a living map, where the data are continuously added and updated. This is one of the most time-consuming aspects of making a web map and is often overlooked. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something new. Heck, maybe you're even excited to try out the tutorial for yourself. Thanks for listening. I'm Hayden Elsla from the State Cartographer's Office. Cheers. Thanks everyone for watching. Yeah, so I think what I'll do right now is grab this link and share it in chat. And if you head there, you'll be able to see the links that I referenced in the video, including the GitHub, link to the GitHub, which is this, that has a tutorial inside of it. And so you could actually follow through and do that 1-minute map on your own and see how that actually works. Do it step by step, so take your time and actually learn something more than you would from just a video. The other thing is there's a link to the Uninks application. You can try this out for yourself. This is the original application that was written for these Uninks for this data set. And what I created after this is trying to add on to that. And then the last link is to the current what was built in the end. So I thought I would just demonstrate this quick. And let's see, make sure it's big enough. So as you can see, zoom in. And one thing I think I forgot to mention is that one of the added functionalities was connecting the photo to the image. And this is useful in some rare cases where a photo is really far away. So for instance, I grew up in Eureka, Wisconsin. So we'll search that. We'll head over there. And one thing that's weird with Eureka is if you click on, there's a few photos that are close, but there's one that's really far away. And if you didn't know that it was supposed to be associated with Eureka when you clicked on it, you're like, well, is it Walk or Eureka? In this way, having that connecting line is nice because then we go, oh, wow, this is a really far away image that's referencing the existence of Eureka. So yeah, any questions? I'll open it up to Q&A, or if you have a place that you want me to check out on the map, I can zoom to that as well.
Thanks, Hayden. Yeah, anyone who has any questions, type them in the chat. We do have one in the chat right now. Where do the maps built with these tools reside? This user could see working on a project related to this, but it's not sure where it would be located in terms of a server or a service. Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, so this is self-hosted through SCO. When I'm developing locally, a lot of the video that I was showing you was just local development. So if you're just trying this out and trying to learn, you can totally just run locally and that works. I use a software called Prepros, which creates a local server. If your file is really simple, you should be able to do it like without a local server, just directly opening the HTML file, and that generally works. Sometimes you have issues, but Prepros is free trial to use indefinitely, so you can always use that. Let me put that in chat, typed out Prepros. Whoops. There we go. Otherwise, for SCO, we have our web servers that we put it up to. If you have access to GitHub pages, you can do it that way. There's a different hosting options that are out there. And basically, when you're at the end of this, you've got an HTML file, some associated JavaScript files. So anywhere that can host, you can throw that.
Great. We have another question here. Do you prefer the vanilla Leaflet JavaScript file or the version built on top of Mapbox?
I guess I haven't used the version that was built on top of Mapbox. I know that you can grab Mapbox layers and as far as like the raster layers or base layers and add them in using Leaflet, but I've never used the custom Leaflet that's built for Mapbox, nor have I really used the custom Leaflet that was built for Esri, which I know is interesting as well.
Great. Again, I encourage you guys to put some questions in the chat. We have some time. If you wouldn't mind, Hayden, we could browse around your unincorporated area map for a little bit while we wait for some questions, or just because it's interesting. Maybe do that for another minute and see any questions come in. Otherwise, we can wrap it up in here in a little bit.
I mean, does anyone in chat have a place that maybe they grew up or know of that might be interesting and they're wondering if there's photos there? So like I grew up in Eureka. There's basically 3 bars and a church is all that's there. So there's the picture of the church and then the cemetery outside of town.
I actually helped collect those points. Howard suckered me into driving around, and so I collected quite a few of those points. And the other thing that happened was I did some stuff with the Native American folks, and that needs to be converted to a newer type of software. So that's what I'm thinking with this. That's how this whole thing started to begin with, talking about that and mispronouncer. So one thing sort of led to another. So that's the reason I'm asking specifically. Might have a question or two later, I suppose.
Van Dyne. Okay. Sorry, did I miss your question, Joe, or you're just... Oh, no, you asked before about... Okay. Van Dyne has 1 photo. Population 5,000. So it's not even unincorporated possibly because they give a population. That's interesting. Maybe it was unincorporated at one point and now is incorporated.
What about Willard, Wisconsin?
I think I was just there.
Oh, did I miss that?
Oh, yeah, yep. That was this one. Again, that's quite far distance where the direction sign is from the place. Some of them don't have even unincorporated. And growing up, I didn't even know what unincorporated meant. So it was just like, oh, we have so few people that were just unincorporated. Well, it means you don't have a government. So our government was at the township level. I'm like, why is our town hall the town of Rushford, but we're Eureka? And it's like, oh, because we don't have government. Our government's at the township level. And then, of course, getting into the PLSS, 6 mile by 6 mile townships. It's a whole, yeah.
It's a fun rabbit hole, though.
Yeah, I just got down in that rabbit hole through a past work that I was doing, working with a PLSS database that was produced at the University of Wisconsin. And that was just like all the original survey land records were digitized, and learned more than a life's worth of knowledge about the public land survey system and the history behind that. It's pretty crazy.
That's awesome.
So there's a couple of questions in chat. Do you have only point data, or have you created some polygons for those unincorporated communities? So only point data. I don't know how you would create those polygons. I guess you would have to go through and try to take some judgment calls on what that might look like. And I don't know how, yeah, that'd be interesting. Joe, sign of the unincorporated place. So Minocqua still says unincorporated. That's interesting.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, so I helped gather quite a few of these points on Highway 29 and Door County and stuff. And I mean, this is kind of a fun project, so it's interesting to see where it's going, and I appreciate you showing it because I don't think it would be rocket science to redo some of this stuff, but I have a use for it for our own like minority mapping too. So I appreciate you showing it.
Apparently, I can't find Minocqua through the search.
It might not be the Minocqua area. I don't think it's called Minocqua. It's one of the places next to it. If you just move over there, it's one of them nearby.
Trying to remember where it is, somewhere up in here.
Try putting a C in front of the QU.
Oh,
yeah, Woodruff.
Why.
It is Woodruff. It is Woodruff, I believe. That's actually says unincorporated, and you're like, what?
So we've got, oh yeah.
I mean, Minocqua is pretty darn big to be unincorporated.
Yeah, they have the Minocqua bats.
It's just fun to scroll around and find what's out there. I know in the southern part of the state where Howard lives, he's done a lot more traveling around, taking random pictures of things that are not necessarily associated with unincorporated, just things he found is interesting, like cemeteries.
Yeah,
there's
cemeteries. Yeah, he's started doing cemeteries schools a while back.
And that's kind of the idea. There's a lot of these rural places that are just not going to be existing anymore. A lot of like abandoned buildings and stuff. So trying to capture this before they're gone is, I think, an interesting idea. And maybe this will turn into that and become something larger than it is right now, which is just a quick project for a presentation.
Other people could contribute to it too that are interested or want to drive around. I'm sure he'd love to have other people throw some pictures his way with your location turned on your cell phone and all that type of thing.
Yeah, that's why trying to come up with a submission scheme where people can add their own photos, and then we can go through with the admin, move the photo if we needed. That's kind of the goal. There's a lot that's involved with that. I thought about using maybe like Survey 123 or something as a data ingest so that I don't have to worry with all that. But we'll see what we end up doing.
Is there a way to contribute to it right now?
Right now, you just have to email a photo to Howard and say where it is. Well, you have the GPS data and the metadata of the photo, but you have to say what unink that it's supposed to be for. And that's kind of been the process. It's just been very old school, lo-fi, just send the image. So right now there is no.
Okay. We have a couple other places that you could see if there's pictures of Hazelhurst and El Dorado.
So we got El Dorado. There is a picture, and it was verified. We got the unincorporated. Let's see if we can find Hazelhurst. And if you all want to check this out as well, the links are in the chat. I'll put that link again to the video, and in the video, there's a link to this application as well. So unincorporated as well. Okay, so I'll put a chat or a link in the chat for the page I'm on now. That should be accessible to everyone. And then again, I'll put a link to the video, which has additional links and the video itself.